Good evening, this is Your Vote 2017. I'm Neville Choi.
And I'm Titi Gabi.
As voting continued today in various parts of the country, it's not been without more controversy. From more delays in voting to allegations of extra ballot papers being found and police in NCD announcing they expect to charge the NCD election manager and his deputy in coming days. A lot of these stories have been shared not first by mainstream media like newspapers and radio, but via social media.
It's fair to say that with the rapidly growing popularity of social media here in PNG in recent years, especially Facebook, this year's election has been like no other before. Tonight we look at what impact it's had on the campaign period and ask the question, has it made the election more transparent or has it helped feed rumours and fake news?
We're joined in the Your Vote studio by Emmanuel Narakobi, blogger and social media expert from Masalai Communications. Emmanuel, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Also on the show, we'll hear from voters themselves and, of course, some Facebook users having their say.
First, though, let's take a look at the numbers. It's estimated that more than 900,000 people are accessing the internet now in PNG. That's around 13% of the total population.
And more than a third of those people are signed up to Facebook, with more than 300,000 people in PNG believed to have an account. Emmanuel, so those figures may seem large here in the PNG context, but realistically, how large are they?
I think, to be honest, compared to the population of the country, it's not as big as it could be. Like when we were looking at the numbers, probably the last elections, it was around 300,000. So it's increased, but considering our population, it probably should be larger. But I think in terms of the activity, it's still based around the urban areas where decision makers are, so there's some effect in that sense.
Okay, and the size of the population that's actually on social media or Facebook, and the age groups, is there something to be said about that?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely have a younger audience that's coming in to the conversation. And so I've seen, over the years, we've seen the change from perhaps my age group and older being the first adopters, and now there's more people speaking now. There's more people talking, more opinions, and definitely a younger audience has come in.
Is there any truth in the users leaving Facebook as soon as they get old enough?
I think so. Yeah.
And the younger ones.
Just have to look at your relatives and your kids. You'll see it.
There is. On the flip side, children are leaving because their parents are joining Facebook.
Yeah.
So that's probably why the numbers haven't grown as
probably.
Much as we expected.
Moving to things like Instagram and other things too. So.
Okay. And what are Papua New Guineans on Facebook talking about? What are they looking at, and why do they have the Facebook accounts primarily?
Yeah, but primarily, because it's a social network. So people want to connect with their friends and relatives, and so you're there to catch up with each other. That's the primary reason, it's a way to connect. It's the modern version of our buai market, so that's where everyone's at. But once you get there, then there's a whole lot of other things to do and talk about, and like anywhere else, politics comes up, and this seems to be the one of the main areas of venting, expressing, and finding out about what's going on.
Well, elections are concerned, Emmanuel, it would be considered a smart tool to use to some degree.
Sorry,
would you agree? Where elections are concerned,
yeah,
would you consider Facebook a smart tool to use?
Oh, definitely.
If you're running for elections,
definitely. We ran campaigns for two parties in the 2012 elections. And at that time, it was quite new, and it was only a handful of politicians that were using it. So, and over the years from then to now, there's been more politicians that have created their own following, their own, vibrant use of the communications there with other people, and more political parties have got onto it. Yeah. So,
how many politicians are actually on Facebook?
I wouldn't know. I mean, there's a lot. Okay. It's definitely increased in the last 5 years. So it's mainly the big parties and main members of parliament that are quite active, and it's a great place where you can actually interact with them and everything. But there's sort of fringe people as well too that have come up as well too. So it's could be more, but the ones that are there, they're quite active and quite like responsive to people, so which is good.
We've heard during the campaign period where we've seen candidates and parties having a presence on Facebook, having a Facebook page.
Yeah.
We've heard that there may have been some challenges financially for parties to go out and really go big on publicity,
Yeah.
but they've resorted to Facebook. So it's a good thing, but the regulation of what they say on Facebook and the facts behind that, how is there any policing of it?
I mean, you have the laws in terms of the the cybercrime laws that have been passed just last year. So so there's sort of like a framework, I guess, in terms of what you can and can't say. I think in terms of as an affordable medium, yes, that's definitely been looked at. Like we found ourselves with politicians this year. They just had to, like, we had a lot of discussion about them putting money into social media, I mean into media work, and when it came up to it, they said, we don't have any money, we're just going to have to focus on logistics, flyers, and do our Facebook pages ourselves, which is good. So as a cheaper medium, yes, they've definitely taken that on. Yeah, so it's definitely, more people are using it. It's definitely been used by the politicians, obviously, yeah.
So how does it work as a tool, as a campaigning tool, in your experience, for these elections?
It's straightforward, really. They put up the page. Even before campaigning, individuals were saying, look, just letting everyone know, I'm standing for the coming elections.
Okay.
So just letting people know initially that they're standing, and then they have their friends already, and then they just start spreading the word about what they're doing, the rallies they're having.
So as a monitor, did you see a spike in users?
Yeah, definitely, yeah. I don't have the figures on me, but definitely an increase in users and activity coming up to the election period.
Okay, well, there's a lot to keep discussing, Emmanuel, but before we do, let's have a listen to what some voters had to say about how important they consider social media has been this election and whether they trust everything they read online.
Well, obviously it has a positive and negative, but I think social media has a very important role.
Any issues of mismanagement or people trying to hijack the system of the voting, it's all being exposed. So there's no hiding now for anybody that's trying to do things without being caught by the public. Huh?
There's a lot of comments that's causing the other supporters from the other candidates to come up with arguments, and for West New Britain, it's very aggressive now.
I'd rather trust a more reliable source, because someone posting from social media can be sort of biased depending on who he's supporting.
I'll trust him fully, fully, because she's my, he or she would be my related to me. I will trust him or her. Yeah.
In the elections, like if we have to vote and like we want to know what's the latest updates and news and all that, we'd rather just check Facebook rather than waiting for the news at 6 or the papers to come out the next day.
It is helping promote and some of those, especially bigger parties, policies and constitution. So it makes it clearer for people to know that candidates running for bigger parties have visions.
Right, so we've got different views there from different range of people there, but themes like accessibility to information,
Yeah.
Connectivity to other users on Facebook and identifying with them through that.
Yeah, it's I think you have to look at it as you've got the mainstream media and you've got the social media, so it's just another form of media. And so it's a good way of balancing both of them, and good for people to have different avenues of receiving information, and then this one in terms of being able to respond and interact with what's happening. Yeah.
Okay, and one of the people that was interviewed there said that it's also an avenue to expose things that may have been hidden in the past.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've seen a number of cases already, and One recent example was the Manu Manu land deal, and that directly came from a PNG blog's sort of news break with all the information that they disclosed and everything, and then that led to I guess they had an inquiry or something, and so it's definitely they're definitely on their toes. You only have to look at the amount of money that's been spent by some of the political parties on their Facebook pages, and how they're managing it with people, advertising companies from outside, to realize how important they feel that it is. So it's definitely pushed them to react as well.
Okay.
So what Facebook is also providing is a voice for everyone and anyone. So that's a plus there.
Yeah.
Another issue that's been brought up in the recent past because of this exposure of information is the validity of this information.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, it's a huge concern, and you know, if you want to look internationally, you know, you've got the case of you know, the U.S. elections. You know, a perfect case of where, you know, there was the companies and people that were sponsoring fake news to push and influence the elections. Those same people were also involved in trying to influence the French elections. So we've got the similar case here where I know of political parties that have people who are working with, you know, with anonymous accounts to try and balance out the conversations. You know, if they're negative, they're trying to balance it to become positive and everything. So there is money going into influencing people, and specifically for working with an agenda. So it's there, it is happening. So it's really about trying to look at the voices that you are familiar with and you trust, and sort of following them in terms of what you're receiving through social media.
Okay. All right, well, social media and mainstream media, is the first pushing out the second?
I don't think so. I think they'll always be feeding off each other. You know, like people will be reacting to a newspaper story, and then they'll make the comments, or something may start with social media, and then come back to mainstream media. So they'll work off each other. I don't think anyone's better or worse off.
Okay.
We agree. Yeah. The views of some people on the streets of Port Moresby today. You're watching Your Vote 2017. Don't forget, you can follow us on Facebook. Just find the Your Vote 2017 page and like it. You can also send us a message. We'd love to hear from you. Coming up after the break, we'll hear from some of those of you posting on Facebook and what you've had to say. Stay with us.
It's already making an appearance here in PNG, and especially on Facebook.
Yeah.
And some individuals that are linked to, not that we have proof, but you know, just the famous.
I know people that are, I mean,
yes. Welcome back. This is Your Vote 2017. We're going to take a look at some posts on Facebook now. First up, this photo from user Edward De Vere, who's commented on yesterday's turn of events in NCD. He's just one of many Facebook users turning to the online platform to voice their opinion. And this post from Man Lawful Wills follows on from that. He's created his own poll on Facebook, asking fellow users if they think the Electoral Commissioner should stand down. And so from Sonia Berry on the Voice of PNG page. Now she's very active in this group and has certain allegiances, but she makes an important point about fake information. She talks about a lot of the false information posted on Facebook about candidates, and she warns voters to be careful not to be influenced by such posts. Emmanuel, A selection again of what people are saying on Facebook about yesterday's events. What do you say there?
Yeah, like in terms of, as I was saying, you definitely have people and trolls that have an agenda and are putting stories out there, and so so it does exist. And again, you just really have to look at who the trusted voices. So, for example, Brian Kramer's an example of someone where he has a particular following. He has certain people like what he speaks about, how he talks. And so they'll say, okay, look, Brian Kramer said it, I'm going to go to that source. And that's, they may look at another person and say, oh, that person's always talking like this. And so those are the initial ways that people, or anyone can start sort of like filtering what's there or not. And it's usually like, if you don't recognize the name, then it's sort of like, okay, where's it coming from? There's been one fake news link that I saw where it was linked to a page, and it was basically some sort of advertising page. So, and again, in terms of fake news, you have to check the website link, and is it a website that is it is it an MTV news website or those sort of things? So, it's really coming back to like credible and known sources that you have to really look for and not quickly believe, because a lot of times too with social media, you're just flicking through things and then you're quickly sharing it with people, and then it's like, oh no, that's, yeah. So those sort of some of the ways to sort of help filter what's going on around you. Yeah.
But fake news did play a major role in the campaign period. If you feel like there's a lot of people hiding behind fake names and.
Definitely, yeah. So as I was saying, there are people that are working for people with an agenda, and they don't use their real names. And you'll see their comments, and you can see where they're going. And 100% of the time, you go to their Facebook page, and they have no picture of themselves, some other pictures, and their account's just recently been opened, and there's nothing on their page. So you immediately know that's a troll. That's someone that's being put there to push an agenda.
So how should you treat a troll? Like
any other ugly creature, you you don't engage with them. And you just, in most cases, and I found that, as soon as I put up something about a particular topic, especially when it's political, these trolls just pop up immediately, and they're already putting an opposite view and so forth. Some of them are okay, they do make sense, but in most cases it's just not worth the time engaging with them, Especially when they start going off topic and start personal attacks. It's like, there's no point. We know what we're saying. Yeah.
Okay, so there's a level of education here, because so you're saying that if there are things to watch out for to notice that where people are not genuine.
Yeah.
Is there a checklist that you can give to our viewers?
No, absolutely. I mean, it just basically, yes, there is a lot of fake news. It's not so much fake, but they're pushing agendas and influencing against real facts. So especially when it came down to, I saw this during a lot of the discussion around the economy. And so it was just the way that they were trying to push the discussion around the economy and trying to ignore like actual facts. And so in terms of a checklist, in terms of people being aware of, what they're receiving, again, it's like looking out for trusted voices that you're familiar with. And secondly, looking at the sources of this, like, if it's a news site, do you know the news site, and so if you've been on Facebook for a while, you start to get a sense of who speaks to you, who speaks sort of the truth for you and that sort of thing, and you have to just keep following in terms of your trusted voices, that sort of thing. That's really what to follow from. Yeah.
Okay. All right, well, we are with Emmanuel Narakovi, and you are watching Your Vote 2017. We'll be back with more after this break.
There were claims on Facebook about this group of Australians and all that.
Welcome back to YourVote 2017. Great to have your company. Tonight we're looking specifically at the role social media has played in this election, and we're joined here by Emmanuel Narakobi of Masalai Communications. Well, we still have 10 days of voting left if all runs to planned schedules. And then we can expect days and days of counting, with results slowly filtering through. Emmanuel, the impact of social media has already been seen so far in this election. It was seen yesterday when the polling was deferred for NCD. Yeah. But what's going to happen now when we move to counting? We'll have a lot of figures coming through, and figures real time and some not so real time. How do we differentiate the source?
Ideally, it should come from the Electoral Commission. And I believe they have a Facebook page. So everything should be coming from them, whether, they should be putting out the media releases to the, traditional media houses, and they should be updating their Facebook page, and they should have a Twitter account, because that's has a more international focus. So the numbers should be coming from them. And from last election, we had a whole lot of different people with numbers, and a lot of it was feeding from radio, and then coming onto social media. But in overall, though, they were all quite accurate. It worked out that they may have been behind by a number of points or so forth in terms of the counting, but overall it seemed to be quite accurate. So for this one, we'll just have to wait and see, especially with the mess that we're going on now. What usually happens when there's a mess is that you usually find one or two people or three people that seem to be consistent with putting out the numbers, yeah. And when they emerge, most people will just draw from that. They'll start reposting, or they'll take it and then tell other people, and then it starts spreading the way it does. Yeah.
I think what one of the results of Facebook in these elections also is that everyone on Facebook has just suddenly become an election observer. Mm. Yes, I think that's one of the biggest pluses for because yeah. We're seeing pictures that Facebook users are posting that we wouldn't have otherwise. Yeah, so that's one of the good things in my view. Yeah.
Okay. Do you expect any fake news during counting?
I think for the counting period, I don't think you could have fake news in terms of fake numbers, because it'll end up, the final result will end up coming. So it's not like you can lie to people and say, look, I'm a candidate, I've won, because it'll eventually get counted. So I don't believe so.
But is there a level on social media of Papua New Guineans who are just on social media to destabilize things?
Well, I think that period for destabilization would have been during the campaign period and with the polling period. Once the counting begins, it's really, in terms of anything going wrong, it's really going to be with the people inside counting. So social media will just be reflecting the numbers that come out of there. So social media won't be able to influence anything at that point. It will just be reporting the numbers that are coming out, however it's coming out. Yeah.
And how will Masalai Communications be following the counting?
Again, it's like whoever I find that's consistent and seems to be getting it right for the first lot of electorates, then we'll be like, okay, well, I'll start following them and getting numbers from them. Yeah, unless you know someone inside, then that'd probably be another way. But anyway, yeah.
Yep, knowing someone inside always helps, but then you've got people who say they know someone inside, but they don't really know. Yeah,
as usual, it's going to be like, you'll see it over the next couple of days. It's like there'll be a couple of people that start being consistent, and that's who you can start following. Yeah, yeah, and it's not, and the difference too between last elections with Facebook, this time you've got WhatsApp too. So what's also happening is that everything that's coming from Facebook also is getting onto WhatsApp and SMS. So it's sort of, in terms of reaching people that are not on the internet, that's also spreading out as well. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Any final words for our viewers, especially with counting coming up, and we've got a couple of days till NCD goes to the polls?
Yeah, I think for the polling period, if people can, just hang around with their phones, and for ourselves, I think we all want the best for the country, and and if we can all participate in making sure that it's a free and fair elections, then by all means, use your phone and let's make it work for us.
Okay, well, it is in a couple of days. It's actually tomorrow, Emmanuel. Okay, well, that's all we have time for on Your Vote 2017 tonight. And thanks to Emmanuel Narakobi from Masalai Communications for being on the program. Emmanuel, thank you very much. I think our viewers appreciate what you've been given out to them tonight and in preparation of polling in NCD.
Thank you for watching. Don't forget, for all the latest updates and breaking news on the election, you can like and follow us on Facebook. That's Your Vote 2017.
We're also broadcasting special live bulletins with the latest from our team of hardworking reporters covering the election across the country. Live every day at 1 p.m. here on MTV. Until the next time, I'm Neville Choi.
And I'm Titi Gavi. Good night.
Thanks for your company. Good night.